All right, folks, restoring faith in the U.S. election system. My next guest introduced a new bill establishing a bipartisan commission to review the 2020 election and future federal elections. Joining us now to discuss, Michigan Congresswoman Lisa McClain. Congresswoman, thanks for being here. First off, you know, the Democrats back in 2016 and the year 2000, they were complaining about election integrity in the voting machines. What is in your bill? And with the lawless party that's in charge right now in Washington, what's the likelihood that anybody in D.C. is going to get a chance to vote on it?
Well, I say this often. If it wasn't for double standards, there'd be no standards at all. But look, we had an election in which many people had a lot of concerns about our democratic process and the voter process. We, as a government, as a body, have to instill some faith in our voting system. So what I've proposed is an election integrity bill. And I use this analogy. After a football game, what do the teams do? They take a step back and they look at game films and they look at what did I do right and what did I do wrong and what can I improve upon. I think with the debacle of this election, I think that is a very good idea. If it makes sense to do it for a football game, why wouldn't we want to do it for one of the most important rights that we have as American citizens, and that's the voting process. So let's put a bipartisan committee together and take a look at what can we improve on. Because I'm hard-pressed to believe anybody on either side of the aisle thinks that that was our best showing in the last election cycle.
Well, I don't think, judging by what's going on in the Congress today and the Senate, I don't think that there's anybody on the other side of the aisle that's interested in fairness in any respect, Congresswoman. But let me ask you, the Salcedo show has examined the merits of the Texas lawsuit. And as you know, the Texas lawsuit called into question 4 other states that didn't follow their election laws. Isn't it imperative that we get a ruling from the United States Supreme Court as to whether or not the various states are allowed to break their own election laws? Isn't that imperative?
100% it's imperative. And I think the people's voices want to be heard. That's the Supreme Court's job. Let's hear the American people's voice. Remember, us in government, we are supposed to be the people's voice. So let's start talking and let's let our constituents' voices be heard. Because I can tell you, the people of my district, they want their voices to be heard.
Legislature in South Dakota just came out with a piece of legislation they said would allow that state to simply ignore Mr. Biden's executive orders if they determine it's unconstitutional. And this is what I was talking with my last guest, Mark Halpern, about. The minute the American people start to say, hey, you know what, the rules don't apply to Democrats, the laws don't apply to Democrats, they get to do whatever they want and impose unfairness on the rest of the country, then the rest of the country is going to start looking for ways to, hey, you know what, if you're not going to listen to the law, why do we have to listen to you? So do you see more of that happening, about what's happening in Kristi Noem's South Dakota, where people are just going to say, you know what, you're a lawless government and we shouldn't be listening to you?
It's a very slippery slope, for sure. Listen, we are a nation of laws. Let's get back to 3 branches of government, 3 equal branches of government, the rule of law, and let's get back to the Constitution. That has served us really well for over 200 years. We are getting off course, and it's our job as leaders to bring us back on course. And that's why I introduced the bill is, listen, we have got to listen to the American people. The American people are frustrated because we are not following the rule of law.
Now, you've been on record as wanting to get the kids back in school, and it's pretty much the greedy teachers unions against the teachers, against the kids, and against the parents. You've got, up there in Michigan, you've got your governor, who is a real piece of work. What is the status of getting Michigan kids back into schools?
It's very slow. It's very, very slow. And if we want to listen to the science, because that's all we've heard here in Michigan is listen to the science, listen to the science. Well, then let's listen to the science and let's get our children back in school. If we don't get our kids back in school and get them back in school like now, we are going to lose an entire generation for our future. And that's really sad. And you know what? That's not fair to those kids.
You know, it took the 5th largest school district in the country out in Las Vegas 18 kids' suicides before they said, gee, maybe we ought to reopen our schools. You're absolutely right. Keeping them shut down, keeping the economy shut down, there's nothing scientific about it. And it's like I always say, liberals and their policies, they kill. Thank you, Congresswoman. I appreciate the time here on the